Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Sound check, 1, 2, 3.
Afternoon. Welcome to the Cleanliness and Security in the Downtown Task Force meeting of April 1st, 2025. I would like to call the meeting to order. A reminder that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during committee meetings. Please note that quorum is present. Please announce the names, or I'm going to announce the names of all the members. Councillor Crutch has unfortunately sent regrets for today's meeting. Councillor Wilson, present. Helen Caplet,
Present.
Elizabeth Wakeford, Karen Rowe, Emily Walsh, and myself. Also in attendance, we have the Beasley Neighborhood Association, Angers Leto, Central Sonia DePau, Duran Christopher Redmond or Christine Sander, and Chamber of Commerce Greg Dunnett or Drina Ozemek. Are there any discussions on the agenda? May I please have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda as presented? Moved by Elizabeth, seconded by Councillor Wilson. Is there any opposed? And carried. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. And may I please have a mover and seconder to adopt the minutes of the September 12th, 2024 meeting? Moved by Elizabeth, seconded by Councillor Wilson. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, carried. We're on to 7.1 under items for information. Intersection at King Street East and Walnut Street. Is there any updates on this? Okay, that was a motion I put forward, so hopefully we'll. Okay, Carolyn, go ahead.
Through the chair. So I just wanted to maybe just seek some clarification. I went back into my notes and I did speak with staff to see if there was any update with regards to the intersection, and we weren't able to find anything on the file. Would you be able just to give me a pretty quick briefing just so I can take it back and have them relook at it for me?
Sure. Should I pass the chair to Emily or can I speak to this? I'll pass the chair to Emily. So that was something I brought up. The councillor and I were talking about how that intersection is very unsafe at Walnut. So we were looking at possibilities of different timings of the lights so that when someone's trying to turn right onto King from Walnut north, I guess, they're not impeding with the traffic coming from the south side. We see a lot of hit and misses there throughout the day with pedestrians, especially the crosswalk is also situated a little bit oddly in that location. So people have to cross over to the one side to get to the other side, and often they're ignoring that. So similar to Ottawa and Cannon, I think, we've seen close calls there. So just looking to see if there's any possibility for improvements. Does that answer your questions?
No, that's great. Thank you. I'll take that back and then have them look into it and I'll provide an update. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'll take the chair back from Emily. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none. We will move on to 7.2, streetlight bases. Director Ryle, are there any updates on this item?
Yes, thank you through the chair. So we did go out and do an inventory, and the last I heard, I believe there were 50 locations identified in the downtown core that are missing the bases. And we've put an order in to reorder them and then have them reinstated as soon as we receive that inventory. So I don't have an update right now from the supplier on the ETA, but by the summer, we're hoping to have the 50 locations that are identified replaced with brand new bases.
Okay, great. Would you be able to send out an update as the timing when that is decided, just so we can report back to our members as well?
Yes, no problem. I'll get back to everybody on when the expected delivery is and prior to that work starting.
Okay, great. Is there any discussion on this item? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Director Ryle. I thought I heard her say 50. I guess my question is, moving forward, the city process that is used to both inventory and assess, what, if I could ask, is there a process, would that be part of the asset management plan? Is that tucked into perhaps any of the LRT inventory work and conditioning? I'm just moving forward and trying to keep a view on that important corridor. Thank you.
Director Ryle, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, through the chair. So thank you, Councillor. Great question, because there was obviously some history with regards to replacing the bases with the LRT program and the timing for that to come down through the corridor. So what I've asked staff to do right now is through our own resources and with the contractor that we work with, that we will be keeping, we'll be doing our own checks, patrol checks on the bases, and we'll be working to replace them and coordinate with LRT when timing is we'll say better known with regards to what will be happening in the corridor with regards to that. So it will reside with transportation through a patrol to ensure that anything that's missing that we work to replace until such time there are future timing, like I said, that come forward from the LRT perspective. Does that answer your question, Councillor? Did you have anything else?
Thank you, Director Ryle.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to 7.3, selection process for new members to the Cleanliness and Security in the Downtown Task Force. Legislative Coordinator McIntosh, are there any updates on that?
Yes, so no names were put forth from the James Street North, James Street South, and the other small business representative. So the suggestion is to go to the selection committee, and we need a motion for council to direct the selection committee to do recruitment.
Okay. So would be the motion that the selection committee for agencies, boards, and subcommittees be requested to fill the 3 small business vacancies on the Cleanliness and Security in the Downtown Core Task Force. Is that correct? Okay, great. Do I need a mover and seconder for that? Okay, can I get a mover Emily, seconder Elizabeth? Okay, great. So that will be reported back, I'm sure. Okay, can I have a vote, please? All in favor? Carried. Sorry about that. Okay, great. Moving on to 7.4, sidewalk safety and private property. Are there any staff updates on this? Trying to remember what was discussed. This is from the previous. Okay. I think that was a discussion about how the sidewalks are falling apart downtown. Is that what it was? I'm trying to remember. Is that correct? So I'll pass the chair to Emily. I'll make a comment on this. I think the ongoing concern is that we're constantly getting told because of LRT construction, the sidewalks along the corridors will not be replaced, but they are crumbling and they are becoming trip hazards. So it'd be nice to get a timeline and some attention to when those improvements will be made in the downtown core. I'm not sure if anyone's here that can speak to that. Sorry? Okay, Carolyn.
Through the chair. So with regards to the sidewalks, we do have a deficiency program. So transportation assesses all sidewalks city-owned throughout the city. And then we do work with each of the wards on the asset condition and a number of replacements of sidewalks that we do throughout each of the different wards. So this is an annual program. I do know that we're doing a number of sidewalk replacements in Ward 1, and there'll be further conversations with the ward councillor on the timing if those locations haven't been provided already to the ward, which I think they have been. So if there are specific maybe locations specifically that you want to identify to me, I'm happy to take that back to see if they have been identified for this year's annual replacement program, and if not, where they may be in that schedule. And if something is required, I'm happy to have staff go assess it and deal with it accordingly, no problem.
Okay, great. I think probably what would be best is to take that offline and just send you an email of the locations. Emily, are you okay to do that as well? Okay, great. Are there any other discussions on this item? Elizabeth?
I'm just looking through my notes from the last meeting and I'm wondering, I recall this had something to do with a business, perhaps Tim Hortons on Jackson Street, and sidewalk safety and accessibility to sidewalk space when individuals have nowhere else to go. And I think it may have been brought up by Helen, so I just wanted to remind everyone of the conversation and give Helen an opportunity to comment.
Yes, my apologies on that one. So behind
the Provincial Offences Office at 50 Main Street East. There is a Tim Hortons there, and a lot of people do loiter along that stretch. In front of the Tim Hortons on the sidewalk, they have a lot of their personal effects. They kind of loiter on the sidewalk all the time. I guess my question was, at the time, was it a business responsibility to make sure those areas are clear for pedestrians to walk, or is that the city's responsibility to make sure those are an easy expressway for people getting in and out of the city? Because there's a few areas where the homeless population are loitering quite significantly, and people go or try and go around them. So I just didn't know whose responsibility that was, the business or the cities, to make sure or enforce the access to those areas.
Is anybody able to, Carolyn?
Through the chair. So thanks, Helen. I'll take that back. That would probably be something that would be more directed to the MLE group, or I don't know if it's really encampment related, probably not, but I think it's more the MLE group. So I'm happy to take that back to the director and maybe just give them that Tim Hortons location and just see if anybody can maybe just check it periodically and to see what's happening out there, and to work with, whether it's the business owner or whoever it may be, to provide any assistance. So I can send that back, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Are there any other discussions on this item? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to 7.5, people experiencing homelessness and forced to live on city sidewalks. Grace Mader, General Manager of Healthy and Safe Communities, and Michelle Baird, Director of Housing Services, are here to answer questions respecting this item. Are there any questions on this item? I'm trying to remember who brought this up last time. Was it the councillor?
It might have been Councillor Crouch.
Okay.
I think it was specifically about an encampment at that time near the YWCA, has since been cleared, so I think that takes care of most of it.
Okay. Do we want to defer this item to the next meeting, or? Oh, Helen, sorry.
Just a question. Is there an update on Bayfront for the homeless encampment down there? My understanding is the Parks Department's been monitoring that area, closed the washrooms, trying to keep Bayfront clean. At some points, I believe some of the electrical is being stolen from the street lamps in the park. I'm just wondering if there's an update on how they're keeping that area organized.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Through the chair, Cynthia Graham, Director of Environmental Services. My understanding is that washrooms are closed for the winter, if not part of the winter washroom program, or they're closed because of damage, not necessarily as a result of encampments. I do think that there was some damage to one of the washrooms in the area, and that work is going to be fixed as we're able to. And staff do identify areas for park cleaning, regular park cleaning, as well as the encampment-related park cleaning. And if there's any other questions about that, we do have Manager Rory Doucette online for more specifics if you'd like.
Helen, do you have any follow-up to that?
No, thank you. That's great. Thanks.
Okay, are there any other questions? I think what we can do is repeat this on the next agenda, potentially. Can we do that? Oh, go ahead, Grace.
Thanks very much. Grace Mader, General Manager, Healthy and Safe Communities. So just to the earlier question about Bayfront. So Bayfront Park is been mostly cleared of the encampment that is currently there. There are a couple of remaining locations, but they are slated, the individuals that are attached to those are slated to move into the Barton Tiffany location, and so it's just going through the intake process. So municipal law enforcement, though, does have that park as a priority, so it should be addressed within the next week or so.
And just a follow up to the Barton Ferry encampment, when is that project completed, or is there a completion date for when the individuals will be moving into that location?
Go ahead, Michelle.
Through the chair, Michelle Baird, Director of Housing Services Division. So the shelter, it's an outdoor shelter at Tiffany Barton, is completed at this point in time. All of the cabins are open and Good Shepherd is the operator. So the city has handed over operations to Good Shepherd. So it's operational at this point.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussions on this? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to 7.6, Ferguson Station gate repairs. Are there any updates on this? Go ahead, Cynthia.
Through the chair, Cynthia Graham, Director of Environmental Services. So we do have this on our list of areas to work on. Staff have done an investigation of a fix for the gates. A replacement is what we're having to look at. A replacement for rolling gates that are solid, so not the see-through design that we have right now, is around $85,000 and outside of our current capacity to fund. A replacement like for like, the design that's there now would be significantly more than that, and I have staff looking into what that would be. For the season, working with the team, my suggestion is that we roll the gates up and then monitor the location and not close them at the end of the day and have it more function like a typical park pergola would do, knowing that once the gates go up, we probably won't be able to get them back down. So rather than have the area closed off for programming, with the gates inoperable, have them up and at least the space can be used. And working with our finance team and our parks team to see about how we can fund a more solid repair for that.
Okay, I'm going to pass the chair to Emily, if that's okay. I like the idea of rolling them up. However, I think the issue there is how do we deter illegal activity, encampments, which is why we've had to keep them closed all of these years, unfortunately, even long before some of these issues arose. It was that whole park, in my opinion, needs a little bit of a redesign because of that. So I guess from the BIA standpoint, I'm concerned with who is going to be monitoring that, because my guess would be it would be me most days, having to report things in, and we are severely under-resourced at this moment to be taking on additional work like that. I'm also concerned about solid gates. I would hope that there'd be like an element of public art that would be included in that. I did speak to Peter Fortune about that. I think there's an opportunity for RAPS or for LRT to get involved. I've suggested to LRT that they use Ferguson Station as sort of an opportunity to show plans for the route and things and use it as an information type kiosk. So those would be things I would be open to. But I'm not entirely sure that keeping them open without daily cleanups and supervision of that site is the answer, because I think it's just asking for problems. We have enough problems in that space right now. So would there be the opportunity to have extra resources to supervise that space if that was the plan that went forward?
Through the chair, I can request what that looks like from our parks team. I know that they are regularly collecting garbage and doing maintenance at park locations, not necessarily daily, but I can see what that looks like from an operational standpoint. Happy to work with everybody you mentioned for animation of, public art and LRT. My concern is just that those things aren't going to happen immediately, and a concern about keeping an area that could be animated and programmed shut off is also a concern. So happy to take that away and talk to the parks team and see what we can do for sort of more regular review of the space, and look at what events are planned and working with you. The concern is just that, we're sort of in park programming season now, and I was concerned about keeping the area closed.
Has Parks actually done an audit of what gates will open and what gates will close, or are we just making assumptions on that?
Sorry, through the chair, can you repeat?
Has Parks done an audit on what gates for Ferguson Station will open and will close as of now?
My understanding is that all of them are in pretty poor condition and anticipate that once they're up, they're not going to come back down. I did just get some information from Joel McCormick, manager of waste collections, that his downtown cleanliness team are there daily, so that can help with eyes on the area.
That's great. Grace?
Through the chair, thank you. Just to address Ferguson Station, and I know it's been a hot topic for sure. Some of the work we are doing is centered around relocating the current food distribution group that is there. We're working with them. We actually have a meeting with them on Thursday about an alternative location. And as well, though, we've discussed it with Dan Smith, the Director of Municipal Law Enforcement as well, because we do realize too that we do need to have extra eyes on that location to break the habit, so to speak, of that being opened for that type of any other activity other than, for the general public to enjoy.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think what I'm worried about most with that location is it's literally a house. Like it's a welcome, come and take shelter here. And if there's not ongoing enforcement of the space as a non-compliant space, we're going to run into some major issues. We've already run into major issues. It has been a big burden on the BIA to manage that space. We've been in constant contact with the city over that. So if that was what the city decided to do, it is your asset, but we would definitely, as the BIA, need to have extra help with managing that space. Is there any other comments on this?
Councillor
Wilson?
Thank you, Acting Chair. So, sorry, I'm just catching up on the issue. Is there at present an existing audit or inventory of the site itself in terms of both its physical design, for example, the placement of lighting, where the lighting is, the condition of lighting, the level of service that I think Joel mentioned, they're there, waste is there daily, like just for those of us who are trying to catch up and then maybe to make add more value to the conversation moving forward. Is there a baseline in which we could receive in terms of whose eyes are on it now, what condition is it in, what's there, and who is attentive, so that it doesn't subsequently all fall to the private sector? Is that possible, or does that already exist and I can be directed elsewhere? Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, I think the information is available, but in a piecemeal way. So I can work with the team to pull that together into a bit more of a logical and comprehensive document. Staff did do a review of the structure itself, including the doors, and looking at the life expectancy of the asset. There have been some improvements to fencing, but looking at the space as a whole from a design standpoint, we do have that on our sort of radar for improvement in the future. It's just not something that we have had the ability to dedicate resources to do a redesign at this time. And then with the changes anticipated to the streetscape with LRT, it felt a bit premature to, really get into that design until we knew what the LRT design was going to look like. But from a standpoint of what's there, what's it doing, who's doing what, we can pull that together for the committee's review.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And I think also appreciating that all things going well and the stars be aligned, this will be a space, and the surrounding space will be configured in such a way that will be better with LRT. But I also think it would be really critically important, And you said, I think, Director Graham, that it's on your work plan. Just so I understand, as part of that work plan, there would have to be an overview of the status quo. Would it be fair to ask for the health of the patient now, knowing that some of the real maybe in-depth structural things, but I think what I'm hearing from this committee is two things, and this is not on you at all. It is the lower city, and particularly this area of the city, has been impaired as a consequence of our dithering on LRT. And it deserves much better. And if there are things that we can do to make it safer and better without blowing our brains out, I think there's a desire to do all that we can within reason. So if I could move, following feedback from you, that we could formalize that direction, just to be fair to you, but your feedback on the doability of providing that overview of that space now in terms of any condition assessments, any lighting location, anything like that we could get maybe someone like me who doesn't represent downtown but thinks it's critically important, could just get a better sense, and that would maybe inform some of the things we could do in advance of LRT or to address the conditions right now.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Cynthia?
Yeah, so through the chair, I'm going to ask Manager Doucette just to pop on the line here. I'm just not sure on the capacity of staff to do a more formal assessment at this time, or whether that would require the assistance from lighting consultant or something like that. I think whatever we can probably do as staff, I'm happy to have them do. I just would like to defer to him to answer about the capacity and skill set of the team to fulfill the requirement.
Good afternoon. Through you to the chair of the councillor. Staff are currently working through their plans now. Everything's been kind of slotted in. We also do have a few long-term leaves that we're trying to deal with right now, so we're kind of short-staffed to begin with as well. So we will do our best. I'll speak with staff to see if we can't review further to see if there's an opportunity for us to work this in here, but this may be something that we would have to take to a vendor.
All right, I don't want to monopolize the meeting, Acting Chair. So just so I understand, and maybe I'm not clear on the ask, would you need to go to a vendor to get to give this committee an overview of what is there now? And I'm sure these committee members representing the downtown would probably be able to comment on an assessment of what is there now upon its receipt. But I just don't know if you're able to do that, is provide us like what's in the space now? What's the age of what is in the space now? And have you been in receipt of any comments about some deficiencies of the space now, without having to formally go to the market and seek an engineer or whatever is required? Thank you. And that's me.
Anybody want to speak?
Thank you. Through the chair, Councillor, I would have to talk with our staff to see what we have on hand right now. Being new to the role, I'm not fully aware of the information we're currently holding, but I can definitely take that back, talk with staff, and compile something of more of a formal answer for you.
Okay, thank you. So if I could formally move, and I'd look for a seconder, that if you require a motion to do so, that staff assess what information presently exists that might on the condition and infrastructure present at Ferguson Station, and report back with what they're able to provide to this committee. Thank you.
Okay, may I have a seconder to that motion?
don't know if I can right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Emily? Okay, great. And I'll just pass the chair to Emily for a second just to wrap this up. I just want to sort of mention one last thing, since it's been RBI that's been overseeing this space for 25 years, I guess. You know, we're open to working with the city on this, but what I don't want to see is the gates go up and then this still be a conversation a year from now. We've known that these gates have been broken for several years. It's come to this point now where we can't actually use the space like we want to use it. And it is the BIA activating it most of the time. So I think there has to be a sense of urgency behind this repair. Otherwise, we're just going to open ourselves up to more resources being spent on trying to manage the space. I appreciate everything Joel and his team does for us there, but we would need more bylaw, more people keeping eyes and ears on it, other than depending solely on the BIA to be the person that is reporting those things in. And I'll just leave that there. Okay, any other discussions on this? Okay, vote. All in favor? Carried. Okay, great. Moving on to 7.7 Ferguson Avenue Fountain, my favorite topic. Is there any updates on this?
Through the chair, Cynthia Graham, Director of Environmental Services. So I do have just not a spectacular update, but we did submit a detail sheet to the 2025 capital budget for consideration. It was not part of the funding that was approved. We did identify that we needed $250,000 approximately to completely deconstruct and reconstruct the workings of the fountain. From our standpoint, at the moment, there are no safety tripping hazards. Those have been repaired last year. So from a public access at the moment standpoint, there's no additional work on our end, absent of the funding to actually fix the fountain.
Okay, I will just pass the chair to Emily again. So is that basically saying that it's just going to stay as it is now indefinitely?
Through the chair, we would need funding to do the repair. And so until such time as that funding is available, staff don't have an ability to do anything different, absent of tearing it out and putting in regular sidewalk, which we could probably accommodate in a future budget. But the mechanism of a fountain like that is not cheap, so it doesn't fall within our current funding envelope.
Was there any discussion about funding for that in this year's budget talks? Because we knew about this. We've known about this for a long time.
Through the chair, yes, we did submit the detail sheet for the funding, and it was not a part of the approved budget.
Okay, I would prefer to not see it filled in, and I would prefer to see it actually used for what it's meant to be one day. It's nestled between new developments, and I think it would add something to the street for sure. I mean, we haven't had it for all these years. We can go a little bit longer, but it would be nice to see some plans for that in the future to remediate that. Okay, is there any more discussions on this? Okay, moving on to 7.8, noise control bylaw and street performance policy. Devin Hogue, business development consultant, is here to present respecting this item. Okay, Devin, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to share my presentation if I have that ability. Bear with me here, my apologies. Okay, and it looks like I'm sharing my screen now. Can someone confirm for me, please?
Yes, we can see it. The audio is just a little bit prolonged.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, good afternoon, members of the task force, councillors, and city staff in attendance. My name is Devin Hogue, and I am the business development consultant for Creative Industries, located out of tourism and culture. I also wanted to note that the timing of this request was very opportune for me, as we have been working with corporate communications to develop a public education campaign on this policy in an effort to encourage more street performance. So I'm grateful to be in attendance today and hear concerns and commentary from the committee. So I wanted to start off the presentation with a little bit of a definition on what street performance is. Street performance is meant to provide entertainment value and vibrancy within the public realm, to celebrate talent and culture within our community, and build excitement and a sense of place. Street performance is not advertising or influencing. Typically, I'm not one to limit artistic expression, but I think it's important to note the goals when determining whether an activity can be considered as street performance, coercion to purchase a product, or subscribe to a religious ideology. A little bit of background into the policy. Staff received direction in late 2010 to develop a policy and related guidelines. Extensive consultation occurred at that time, including stakeholder engagement, public surveys, jurisdictional scans, and internal discussions. The policy and related guidelines were adopted in late 2011. Staff view street performance as grassroots placemaking, adding vibrancy to our community. Placemaking celebrates our artistic roots, providing artists with opportunities for audience development and improvement of public performance skills. Street performance has potential to activate our public spaces and encourage foot traffic. When staff were developing this policy, they wanted a low barrier for entry to encourage artists to participate, so we could see creativity and music everywhere. Rather than being prescriptive, we focused on 3 key areas: location, performance, and financial considerations. Location, we wanted to see activation everywhere. Sometimes location is a key part of the performance or creative process. The only limiting factors we had within the policy were no performances at HSR stops, performance could not impede pedestrian or vehicular movements, and performance on private property must be done with the permission of the property owner. Performances must be limited to a maximum of 3 hours in any given location to prevent public and business fatigue. Only battery-powered amplification is permitted, so no tapping into public power sources, and no high-risk activities. As entertaining as it may be, something like knife throwing or fire baton twirling has the potential for public safety impacts. With regard to financial considerations, street performers are not permitted to actively solicit for funds. Performers may set out a hat or guitar case to collect monetary appreciation for their work, but cannot require payment. Additionally, should a performer wish to sell goods, such as CD or merchandise, they would be required to obtain a transient trader license from our business licensing division. Finally, all performances must comply with all requirements, rules, and regulations, including the City of Hamilton noise bylaw. Did my presentation disappear, or was that just me?
It disappeared and we only saw the one slide.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
I do believe it was included in your agenda package, so my sincerest apologies there.
No worries.
One of the last things I wanted to note is that performers must cease any activity and remove performance equipment and materials at the request of either Hamilton Police Services or designated city staff. Once I was asked to do this presentation, I did speak with MLE staff who confirmed that they're not aware of any complaints relating to street performance within the past year. Although the caveat with that is the network issues we've been experiencing have made it difficult to navigate historical complaint data. I did reach out to Hamilton Police Services, but I have had trouble connecting, so I am unable to provide information regarding complaints their office may have received. And finally, our office has not received any feedback on street performance concerns. So I'm truly grateful to have this opportunity to open a dialogue with the committee, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Devin. Are there any discussion items? I'm looking at Elizabeth.
Hi, Devin. Thank you so much for your presentation. I have questions and some thoughts about the policy that I would like to share. First of all, the audio cut out a little bit when you were talking about what is and what is not a street performance. And if I understand correctly, religious speeches would not be considered street performance, so it wouldn't fall under the definition of this policy. However, can you confirm that it would be related to a noise complaint? Possibly.
Oh, we can't hear you, Devin.
My apologies, my connection dropped off there, so I wasn't able to hear the question.
Okay, let me try and sum it up a little quicker. A religious speech would not be considered as part of the street performer policy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But potentially it would be considered as part of the noise bylaw.
Potentially. I can't speak to the noise bylaw, but I would indicate that if they're using anything other than a battery operated amplification system, it would contravene at least this policy.
And in terms of the battery operated sound system, if I understand correctly, there is a decibel level that's outlined in the policy or in the noise bylaw that even with the use of an amplification system, they can't exceed a certain level, as well as not being able to stay in the same location for more than 3 hours. Is that understanding correct?
That is correct. So it's there are 2 decibel levels within the noise bylaw. There's 60 decibels, I believe, from point of reception, and a further 90 decibels for a different expectation. But yes, decibel levels are expressly addressed.
And is there, this policy was adopted in 2011, so that was 14 years ago. And since then, many residents have moved or are moving into the downtown core. The pandemic has changed our downtown. And I know that the BIA is working on a revitalization plan. So I'm just wondering if there's any interest on the part of the department, your department who's in charge in this, on revisiting this policy and updating it based on some changes that have happened.
There are no plans within our current work plan to revisit this. When I was invited to come to this meeting, I did do a brief jurisdictional scan of surrounding municipalities to see how this is addressed for them. And everyone does deal with it differently, unfortunately. The majority of municipalities that I looked at, they either had specific areas where busking was allowed, or they charged fees for busker licenses annually, which we could look at, but there would be concerns with that.
So today is an interesting day to have this discussion. It is April 1st, which is when licensing and bylaw services have extended the hours for noise-related complaints within the city, which I was very happy to see. And I'm just wondering, you said that you did reach out to them and they indicated that there were no complaints within the last year, and I know that I've complained many times. So I'm concerned about tracking for street performer related noise complaints, tracking for religious performance related noise complaints, And what sort of evaluation tools are in place potentially for this policy and tracking, as well as, and I understand that you can't answer the question related to bylaw, but what sort of tracking will be done for these new extended hours? Because we know that in the past, the hours were actually limited as a result of tracking things. And I'm just trying to set ourselves up to be a little more successful this time, that I know there is a need that we've addressed at this task force for increased noise services, not just related to street performances, but also religious performances. And I'm just wondering how we can link this policy, perhaps some of the concerns coming out of Downtown BI revitalization plan, as well as the new noise control bylaw, extended hours of service. So I'm not expecting you to answer this today, but it's just something I would like addressed. Just based on a recent article that was from the Times of London, this is just one of the many examples in other communities where council is being asked to tackle amplified performances in London that are so loud that employees are forced to take phone calls in the closet because they can't hear. And I can speak from past experience as a city employee working in the downtown core and a resident living here, that they're at the corner of King and James, the performance frequency, sound level is with a block away with the windows closed, I can hear every word. And I'm not sure that this is true of other areas in the city, but I'm wondering about maybe implementing a busker-free zone in some areas, if that is an opportunity, or how we're going to enforce the use of amplified sound, because that hasn't happened in the past. But certainly if you want to have a conversation offline, I have lots of input and ideas.
I would love that.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Are there any other discussion items on this? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Helen.
My understanding with municipal bylaw for noise is because it's a legal document, they can only enforce if there is a physical address, like 123 King Street or 50 Aberdeen. They can't just go to a corner and enforce a legal document. There has to be complainant information, location. Can anybody clarify if that's 100%? Because that's my understanding, the basis of where noise bylaws kind of get generated is because of that legal document.
I'm not sure there's staff here that can confirm that, unfortunately. Oh, Grace.
Through the chair, we can take that back to Planning and Economic Development and the MLE team for a follow-up for you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, great. And as somebody who was involved in that original plan, I know there was a lot of consultation and work that did go into that, but I do agree it might be worth revisiting 14 years later. So things have changed. So I agree with Elizabeth on that. Okay, is there, oh, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Could I just ask, what was the rationale? I think in Toronto, they don't allow amplified sites on sidewalks and adjacent to. What was the rationale for permitting it or here?
Through the chair, the majority of municipalities actually do permit for amplified sound, but again, it is battery powered and must comply with all of their noise bylaws. The City of Toronto specifically has different rules and regulations for different areas of the city, as does the City of Ottawa. But yes, the majority do permit amplified sound.
Okay, thank you. Are you able to just give a cursory overview of which communities or municipalities were included in your jurisdictional scan? Through the chair.
Through the chair, we consulted with the City of Toronto, City of Mississauga, City of Kingston, City of Ottawa, City of Kitchener, City of Waterloo, City of Cambridge, City of Stratford, and City of Brampton.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, I was just reading something. So, Chair, could I ask you just summarize what action, if any, is coming out, or is this just to be received? Thank you.
I think just to be received for now.
Thank you.
Emily, did you have something?
In a previous iteration of this program, I believe that there were designated spaces on the sidewalk for busking performances, and they were delineated by stars on the sidewalk. Is that being brought back in this iteration, or are those being continued?
Through the chair, to the best of my knowledge, this is our original policy, and it does not delineate for any type of preferred spaces.
Then a follow-up, and maybe to a different staff, I'm not sure. I know we still have a remnant of a star left at John and Main, I believe. If we could possibly get that properly decommissioned if it's no longer a part of the program, I think that would be great too.
Anya Leto, I'm the representative from the Beasley Neighborhood Association. So in terms of the street performance policy, how does that affect Art Crawl? Because Art Crawl, as somebody who enjoys it, somebody who also vends there, I am overwhelmed sometimes with the sounds and the music. So is this going to also affect that, which is, you know, kind of a grassroots festival?
Devin, are you able to speak to that at all?
Through the chair, I honestly am not sure. This policy has been in place since 2011, so I don't believe it's enforced during during Art Scrawl, but I can't speak to that.
Sorry, it's just only since they've opened up the streets that I think that became an issue. So last year it was only a couple months that was actually a thing. I believe this year they're trying to go from like May all the way to September. So I think it might be more of an issue this year.
It is a good point for sure. I noticed that also, but it's a bit difficult because I don't think they have like an overall event organizer where they could space them out. So it might just be worth talking to the councillor about. Elizabeth?
In terms of enforcement, my understanding, noise enforcement in general and related specifically to street performances has been limited by law. MLE has been consumed with other priorities since the pandemic. And from calling with noise concerns, most of the time I've been told that there is no officer available. So I'm hoping to see as of April 1st with these extended hours that possibly there will be more of a response from MLE. I did have a question, Devin, that you alluded to around reaching out to MLE. It's on the last page of your presentation, and it talks about performers must cease any activity and remove performance equipment or materials at the request of Hamilton Police Services or any person designated by the city for reasons of public safety. We know that Hamilton Police Services has not been actively enforcing noise complaints. They don't have the resources to do that. And given that in the past, MLE also did not have the resources to do this, really no one's been responding to noise complaints. However, when there's a talk of public safety, that I'm guessing is not noise. It's something else. Can you elaborate on what would be considered as a public safety issue that would have police services respond?
Through the chair, I believe that would be in relation to anything encompassed within the performance. So if they are blocking pedestrian walkways, if they are performing within a roadway. I think there's a multitude of reasons why someone can come out and respond to those inquiries and complaints.
Could you clarify, though, whether or not that includes noise? Because I see this as a gap in terms of the response from police services or MLE and the enforcement, or the ability to enforce this. So I also have a question that's sort of a follow-up item I'd be hoping for from the committee. You talked about at the beginning a public education campaign. I'm just wondering if you could tell me, is that for buskers, residents, or businesses? Who is this education campaign for?
Through the chair, the campaign is targeted for potential street performers, and to let residents know that there is a policy and there are guidelines in place. So if there are concerns, they do know that they can reach out to our office in tourism and culture. So it's not only about educating that we do have this policy in place, it's also educating where the policy originates and how to connect with people.
I think that would be helpful in absence of perhaps what police services and MLE have been able to do in the last 5 or 6 years, that I'm not sure how you do it, but I would, as a resident, I would not call tourism and culture about a street performance policy. I probably would be inclined to call MLE or police services. So just highlighting that for residents would be helpful so we can start to track some of the concerns around this program.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. Is there any more discussion on this? I'll just mention to Emily, I think the STARS program was a pilot that your board 14 years ago took on. I think it was specifically to the downtown, if my vault. Yeah, I think it was just the downtown BA. Okay, are there any more questions for Devin? Any more discussion? Seeing none. Okay, may I please have a mover and seconder to receive the items for information 7.1 to 7.7 and to receive the staff presentation item 7.8. Moved by Helen, seconded by Emily. All in favor? Carried. Okay, on to 9.1. We are going to defer this as I think it's important that Councillor Crutch is here for this discussion. So we can have an open discussion with what he's thinking. So we'll defer that to the next meeting, clerk. Can I get a mover to defer that, please? Moved by Emily, seconded by Councillor Wilson. All in favor? Carried. Okay, great. So are there any notices of motion? Seeing none. Is there any general information or other business to come forward? Okay, seeing none. There be no further business. The meeting is now adjourned at 2:28.